Good morning. Welcome to your September 17th, 2013 meeting. If you wouldn't mind, we're going to stand for a pledge of allegiance and an invocation.
Dear Father, help us to be kind and patient as we carry out our duties and responsibilities. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the August 13th and the September 3rd meetings?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to our presentations, which this morning we don't have any unless there's something that I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
Perfect. With that, we will turn to general public comment. Good morning. If you'd like to address the board, please feel free to do so. Just provide your name and your address for the record. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Peter Bullock. 2 weeks ago, I lived at Census Tract 3812.04. Today, I will just note I live at 3120 North Highway A1A, Fort Pierce. I want to take this opportunity to read into the record the letter I submitted to Commissioner Mowry and County Attorney McIntyre on September 6th, 2013. Subject, impact of the Regional 750 Plan upon St. Lucie County. Dear sirs, I, along with many St. Lucie County residents, are deeply concerned about the impacts of the proposed regional planning known as 750. As you are aware, many concerned county residents have joined a coalition known as the American Coalition for Property Rights. I am writing this letter to you as a representative of the American Coalition for Property Rights. After making public comments at the Board of County Commissioners meetings for several months now about the serious concerns we have regarding how this regional planning effort will affect individuals as well as our local communities, we still do not have answers to many of our concerns. This letter requests that a public legal opinion be given to the Commissioners from the St. Lucie County lawyers on the following question. 1. Can St. Lucie County directly or indirectly be required by state or federal laws or regulations to amend St. Lucie County's comprehensive plan, or require localities within St. Lucie County to have to amend their zoning ordinances by virtue of the implementation and operation of any new federal regulation affecting all federal applicants, grantees, contractors, and operators, and in some cases their affiliates. Since the 750 plan is scheduled to be revealed within the next 1 or 2 months, time is of the essence for both the Commissioners as well as the general public to have necessary information to understand the impact of this regional plan upon the county's residents and communities. I hope you will act in a timely manner to provide the general public with an answer to this question. Sincerely, Peter Bullock. The other concern I wish to bring to your attention is the language of the consortium agreement found on the Southeast Florida Regional Planning Council website under the Project Southeast Florida Regional Partnership. We have not found the actual agreement signed by St. Lucie County, but information at the website indicates that the consortium partners, of which St. Lucie County is one, were expected to agree to the additional terms listed in this consortium agreement. The agreement on page 2, under roles and commitments, states, quote, partnership and consortium participants commit to develop and implement, the word implement, the regional vision and blueprint, unquote. More on page 2. Further down as the third bullet following the word furthermore, quote, to work with the executive committee established as the overall governing body for the partnership to ensure full participation by the partnership and consortium partners in developing and implementing, again I say implementing, the regional vision and blueprint. Our concern is that without formally withdrawing from 750 with a legally signed document, St. Lucie County may already have obligated itself to implementing the final 750 plan, the details of which have not been fully disclosed. In another document, the Regional Vision Blueprint Narrative, there are numerous occurrences of implementation and implementing. On page 26, as just one example, it states in section 6, the regional blueprint is the full range of policy documents that supports the regional vision and guides its implementation. It includes strategies for integration into relevant local, regional, state, and federal plans to weave vision elements through each level of planning activity. This blueprint identifies various paths of implementation at each level of the planning activities. Implementing, implementation are words strewn through the document. Personally, I don't write blank checks. The April 13, 2010 Memorandum of Understanding signed by the St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners appears to me to be a blank check. Thank you for allowing me to address you.
Good morning.
A little nervous.
Oh, no problem. Take your time.
My name is Carol Moeller. Can
You
you
just
hear
pull
me?
that down a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, I'm short.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Moeller. I live at 5217 Northwest Iredell Street in Port St. Lucie. I worked in St. Lucie County Planning and retired as the MPO Secretary. I heard the ideas of sustainable development promoted by the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and I believed in them. Regional planners made recommendations supported by the local planners and adopted by the county commissioners as part of the comprehensive plan. At that time, I thought it made sense. Now regional planners are promoting 750, which is the regional plan to control 7 counties. These regional planners are an unelected body funded by the federal grants from Housing and Urban Development, and along with federal funds come federal mandates. Under HUD's direction, regional planners will control the property rights of every constituent in the 7-county region. Part of HUD's social initiative is to change the zoning from single-family to multifamily use and to demand low-income residents access to all neighborhoods, starting with gated communities. 750 encourages mass transit over cars and will eliminate garages and housing permits in order to discourage the use of cars in the future. Regional control rather than local control is their goal. Once 750 has been approved, regional planners will replace the planning and zoning boards and the county commission, and this unelected body will make all the decisions. There will be no appeals. Indian River was presented with evidence, and a public outcry against 750 convinced them to reject the plan. Their group isn't any smarter than you are, and some of you have expressed interest in hearing more about the plan before you make a decision. Once 750 has been approved, we all lose local control of our property rights. According to county staff, 750 will be presented soon with a workshop in November and a final approval in February 2014. If you think the federal government should have the power to decide where and how your children and grandchildren should live, then you should support 750. If you don't, you should reject it before it's too late. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
I'd like to make a further comment. There's an article in today's paper from Westbury, and he indicated that neighborhood blight is a cause for increased crime, and that's going to be the actual cause and effect that will happen with this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sam Somley. I live at 2746 Southeast Eagle Drive, Port St. Lucie. I wanted to take exception to a comment made in the September 3rd board meeting, but I see the attorney is not here. The statement was made that Florida has laws to prevent actions as experienced in Westchester, New York. There are cases all around the country where the government ignores the rule of law, Westchester just got a lot of press because of proximity to New York City. At the same meeting, I spoke of a case in San Diego where a judge overruled a no exceptions clause in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Commission's 50-year easement with the property developers. The judge sided with the Sierra Club when they sued to take away the developers' rights because they were not providing what the club determined as adequate protection for 2 species of fairy shrimp and 5 species of plant. Fish and Wildlife still owns the easement. Developers, 0. In another case, the Big Meadow Grazing Association in Montana negotiated with the U.S. Department of Agriculture to restore a stream bed to get water to their herds downstream. The association would pay $80,000 and give the Agricultural Department an easement to the property. A manual was developed to provide that the government and the landowner would agree to terms of the conservation plan. Almost 2 years later, the government presented their conservation plan with no input from the association, which would cost $485,000, or 6 times the original cost. The plan called out not restoring the stream bed, but instead building a dam to impound the water that the Grazing Association needed. The association urged the government to honor its pre-contract representations. Instead, the government unilaterally began putting its plan in place. Faced with the $485,000 bill and the loss of needed water, Big Meadows filed suit based on the controlling statute, which provides, in general, to be eligible to place land in the wetland reserve under this subpart, the owner of such land shall enter into an agreement with the Secretary, 1, to grant easement on such land to the Secretary, and 2, implement a wetland easement conservation plan as provided for in this action. Under ordinary sentence structure as taught in the 7th grade, this section provides that the Secretary and the landowner shall enter into an agreement which includes the easement and the wetland conservation plan. In other words, both the easement and the conservation plan would be agreed to. A judge ruled, and the Ninth Circuit Court agreed, that both parties must agree to the easement, but then must agree only to the implementation of the plan, which the government puts together without agreement from the landowner. The association entered into the bargain in good faith, but the government did not. The court sided with the Department of Agriculture, and the department still owns the easement. Grazing Association, 0. So much for protection under the law.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Bob Golding. I live at 11001 Southwest Dunhill Court in Port St. Lucie. And I'm here today to add my voice to those who have been asking this Commission to take the proactive step of withdrawing from 750. Like many of those who have spoken before, I attended a 750 summit in West Palm Beach in June. I observed firsthand how 750 staff controlled information flow, relentlessly pressed the agenda of new urbanism, and systematically dismissed any voices of dissent, all while claiming to welcome public input. We have to ask ourselves 2 questions. Why would 3 federal agencies, DOT, EPA, and HUD, spend over $4 million of taxpayer money to bring together the South Florida Regional Planning Council and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to do what? Regional planning. Indeed, these 2 entities have existed for many years. In fact, during the 750 Executive Board meeting in June, we were told by Mr. Busher that the 2 organizations had worked together in the past. So why is the federal government inserting itself and at such an outrageous cost to the taxpayers? The second question is why, if they really want public input, was there no budget out of that $4.25 million to advertise on television and radio, to widely inform the public and solicit that input? No, organizations with a history of supporting the precepts of new urbanism, like the Sierra Club, the Nature Conservancy, and the Audubon Society, were at the table from day one. But most of the public knew nothing about this effort to redesign our future until it was discovered a year and a half into the 2-year process. The answer to both of these questions is influence. Over the last 30 years, federal agencies have subtly learned and perfected the art of expanding their scope and authority by bribing us with our own tax dollars. By offering grants, rebates, and other incentives, federal agencies have been able to exact compliance from citizens, states, and local governments alike. As the federal government has mushroomed, a similar explosion of agency regulations is solidifying federal supremacy over state and local governments, subjecting citizens to the whims of Washington and sidestepping our elected representatives, both in Congress and here at home. A clear example is the U.S. Department of Education, started in 1979 with a few thousand employees and a budget of some $14 billion. It now offers huge sums of money to states and school districts to encourage compliance with federal programs. It's not a partisan issue, no matter whether it was Goals 2000, No Child Left Behind, or the current Race to the Top. Today's Department of Education is huge, employing over 17,000 bureaucrats with a budget over $90 billion. Has education really improved in the last 40 years? Arguably, it's gotten worse. HUD is now proposing a sweeping set of new regulations that will give it free rein to overrule local zoning if it deems a community lacks social equity. You have been given information on HUD and how on how HUD is running roughshod over Westchester County, New York. They're ignoring local planning and zoning ordinances, and assurances from this body that Florida state law and county ordinances will protect us is not very reassuring. I believe that you've seen the draft scenario report published by the 750 staff in July. It clearly embraces all the tenets of new urbanism that other speakers have warned you about for the past few months. I've heard each of you state that there is no plan yet. You have nothing on which to take action. You want to see what's in the plan. Forgive me, but that's strangely reminiscent of Nancy Pelosi's comments about Obamacare. I fully expect that the last-minute release of the draft plan will be nothing but plain vanilla. It will be full of platitudes and non-threatening visions of utopia. It will only be through subsequent offers of grant money to implement small steps, one piece at a time, that HUD will incrementally impose their will on St. Lucie County. And only when it goes too far and local elected representatives have the courage to finally stand up and say no, will the gloves come off. And then we'll see what it's like to be Westchester County. The 750 planning process has clearly been corrupt. By omitting any credible attempt to inform the public and solicit their unmanipulated input, they've ensured that the citizens of St. Lucie County have not been heard. Knowing this, there is no advantage for St. Lucie County to remain a participant. The sooner we divorce our county from 750, the better. Don't kick the can down the road. Please pass a resolution to withdraw from 750 today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just need to make a comment. Unlike Nancy Pelosi, I intend to read the information in front of me, as I've always done.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman, staff. My name is Phyllis Fry. I reside at 275 Date Palm Road in Vero Beach, Florida. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. It's a dreary day outside, so let's brighten it up, shall we? Let's talk about money. Who doesn't love money? It's like an aphrodisiac, and when money's not enough, there's always, well, politics and power. So let's follow the 750 money trail, shall we? Let's start with the initial $150 million of taxpayer money that was released to HUD for Sustainable Communities Development in June of 2010 through the Southeast Florida Regional Partnership for Sustainable Communities HUD Grant Initiative, now known as 750. $4.25 million of that taxpayer money was given to 750 through the South Florida Regional Planning Council, and they were given control of the spending. On May 16, 2012, at a Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council meeting, Ramon Triaz, a member of the council, reported that $700,000 of the grant monies that had been spent with nothing to show for it, no deliverables. 3 months later, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council admitted that the South Florida Regional Planning Council's spending of the money was not spent on performing the grant work and was instead staff-driven to maintain their bureaucracy. Private use of public funds. Commissioner Solari, a member of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, wrote a letter to Mr. Busher executive director about the corruption and asked if his understanding was consistent with this. Mr. Busher wrote back and said, quote, "I concur. I concur." Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council's response was not to fight the corruption, but to take over the management of the money and appoint a new director. Since that time, nothing has changed. The expenditures have mounted to well over $1 million and continue to mount. No surprise there. On June 3rd, 2013, Senator Negron expressed his concern over this intrusion of federal monies to Representatives Harrell and Lee. On July 10th, 2013, when I and members of the American Coalition for Property Rights met with Senator Negron in his office, he expressed his concern regarding the unethical business practices of the South Florida Regional Planning Council and Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and promised to follow up. For those of us who abhor thievery on any level, I will say that personally I would prefer that a thief break into my home, crawl in my bedroom window, and steal my wallet from my bedside table, forthright, rather than hide behind the mask of a planning council that is here to serve the public and plan for the future, backed up by certain politicians who only care about being reelected while waiting to see what taxpayer money might be thrown their way for the good of the community. And this is just the beginning. What could possibly go wrong when the next level of taxpayer money is doled out? Oh yes, and I quote, "We have to wait for the 750 plan to see what's in it." What's in it? Or what's in it for me? Our country is broke to the tune of $17+ trillion. 750 does not offer a plan for prosperity, only massive government dependency and more debt. And when the money runs out, and it will run out because there are not enough printing machines and paper left on the planet to pay for the debt you are about to incur if you stay with 750. When the plan collapses, and it will collapse, the tax burden will fall on the shoulders of the taxpayers. You are about to travel the road to serfdom, where one fork in that road will lead to generations of indentured servitude. You'll be remembered well for the decision you make about 750. The eyes of the nation and your children are upon you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Jerry Bullock, and I live at 3120 North Highway A1A in Fort Pierce. This past week, I read the 750 plan titled The Draft Scenario Report that is on the 750.org website. This plan is a land use plan developed to capitalize on the investments that the planners want to make to transit. The document identifies 4 scenarios and the expected or recommended development needed to support each plan. It's a 159-page report consisting mostly of colored maps of the state of Florida and all of the 7 counties. Colored maps in shades of red and shades of yellow, and the various shades are what indicate either densities or changes in the land use planning. It's very hard to read unless you kind of put it on your screen and blow it up a lot, and you better not be colorblind. The plans are titled Trend, which means staying the course, do very little, let things happen as they would without 750. Plan 1 is Suburban, provides for suburban expansion, heading out west. Plan 2 is Strategic Upgrades, and that focuses on Miami-Dade and Broward County. And Plan 3 is called Region in Motion. Plan 3, or Region in Motion, is the most aggressive and extends the focus started in Plan 2 into the 3 northern counties of Martin, St. Lucie County, and Indian River County. I want to take a look at that Plan 3 because, in my opinion, that's where 750 is headed. Let's take a look at the proposed changes for St. Lucie County based on the limited data which is presented in this report. Population growth in the 3 counties is, population growth in all of the counties is forecast to be 3 million persons over the next 50 years. The first walkable area for housing are targeted at rail stops of the FEC line. In our case, that would be downtown Fort Pierce, and the maps identify roughly a half circle stretching from the rail line in the downtown area, somewhere I'm thinking along Orange Avenue, along US 1 north to St. Lucie Boulevard and south to Delaware, with its radius going west to 25th Street. Got that picture? High and mid-density housing is to be built in this area. The second walkable area is defined as existing around Florida Atlantic University and Indian River State College campuses just to the north of St. Lucie West Boulevard. This area is targeted to be expanded, in fact, to become the premier walkable area in the county, extending out and mostly south and southwesterly from the St. Lucie West area. Our areas shaded to indicate sometimes walkable and bikeable. This area would encompass the area from St. Lucie West Boulevard to Gatlin Boulevard, mostly between I-95 and the Florida Turnpike. And this area appears to extend a bit into Tradition and PGA Village. This area is serviced by a new transit stop for bus or light rail or other feeder transit options at approximately the intersection of Port St. Lucie Boulevard and the Florida Turnpike, and it would likely connect riders to the FEC rail line, probably at Jensen Beach. The only costs identified in this report are $8 billion for 8,012 feet of county and local roadway. Now, that's about $5 billion a mile by my math, so perhaps there is a typo in their plan. Then there is 1.6 billion linear feet of new water and sewer laterals. And again, by my math, that's $10,000 per linear foot. So again, perhaps there is a typo in their plan. These same proportions are extended throughout the plan, though, so if they've made a mistake, it's global. No costs are identified for the transit and bus feeder systems, treatment plants for the expanded sewer lines, adding or improving schools or hospitals. Well, I think you get the picture.
Thank you.
I will only end by telling you, I could show you the numbers, but that says to me it's 69,000 more inhabitants, more residents in the downtown Fort Pierce area. Thank you.
Ms. Bullock. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner, staff, citizens. My name is John Debus. I'm with the Treasure Coast Progressive Alliance. I reside at 5244 Compass Cove Place, Fort Pierce, Florida, 34949. First, I want to start off, I noticed all these flags going around, everybody waving. Just want to let you know I don't have a flag. I'm a retired first sergeant, 22 years service in the Army, so I don't really need a flag. I have it inside here where it counts. I'm here to talk about our river and lagoon. Most of our economy and recreation here in St. Lucie County is centered on the river and lagoon. It is the #1 utmost important issue for our county. It is also most important for all of us to be educated and informed on the issues to be proactive in working to make the health of the lagoon our top priority. #1, I want to invite you all to our monthly event on Tuesday, 24th September at 6:30 p.m. at the American Legion Post 40 on US 1, where we will be hosting the River Coalition, whom will be giving a presentation, question, answer, and discussion on the state of our lagoon. The River Coalition is probably the largest and oldest organization advocating for the river. Should be a very educational, informative event. #2, I also like to invite you all to Hands Across the Lagoon on 28 September from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., 1 hour, at our causeway right here in Fort Pierce, South Causeway. This is citizens coming together at 8 locations from Smyrna Beach Causeway in the north all the way to the Stewart Causeway in the south. And we will be doing our part here in the middle at Fort Pierce. This is to bring attention to our problems in the Indian River Lagoon, and it's sponsored basically Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. Number 3, and I also like to address you as you work on your fertilizer ordinance in the coming weeks. We hope to be seeing all of you leading the way to join Martin County and Indian River County in adopting a very strong ordinance to protect our river. I'm also asking, since I've seen it on the agenda, I'm asking you to do the resolution asking the governor for a declaration of emergency for our lagoon and follow Martin County as whom have already done so. Last issue I want to address is, I guess some of these people just was here. The 750 plan, I basically read through that. From what I've seen, I'm fully in support of it. I'm also fully in support of a program called Earth Rights from the Center of Earth Students Prudence out of Barry University in Florida. I fully, and I believe everybody should be in support of a sustainable planet and a social equity, again, social equity for everyone on our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Charlotte Munsick, and I live in Vero Beach. I'm going to take you into
just your address for the record as well.
Yeah,
Thank
1416 15th Avenue. And I'm going to take you into dreamland this morning. Did you ever dream that you were walking in a meadow when you came to a cliff and suddenly you tripped? You reached out for a handhold and found yourself hanging, looking down hundreds of feet to sharp rocks below. Do you fall? And then you wake up. I actually had this dream after studying about 750 and what it could mean to us. The dream is a metaphor for what could happen to all of us living on Florida's southeast coast under 750, known by any other number of wonderful names, but to me that's a nightmare that would permanently change the way we live. 750 is backed by millions of taxpayers, that's all of our money, and it's being pushed by unelected bureaucrats and non-governmental organizations that share many of the same people. Read about it, you'll find out. All are facilitated by HUD, DOT, and the EPA. Under it, you would be forced to live in high-rises near public transit and next to neighbors that might not be of your choosing. Possibly, you might not even be allowed pets, but you would have to walk, bike, or ride the train to work or to buy groceries or whatever. This will happen here if you don't remove the county from 750. If you do not remove yourself, the county, from 750, you too will fall off that cliff. And unlike the dream, this nightmare will last forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
My name is Mary Burton, 5209 Silver Oak Drive, and I'm happy to come here to address you this morning about 750. I don't really have much prepared today, but I will speak to a few things that I spoke to you about before. In the President's Executive Order of Sustainable Communities Initiatives, he states that we have to overcome some existing barriers, and one of those is property rights. Now, as I address you, our whole Constitution and our freedom and sovereignty is based on property rights. If we do not have property rights, we are not free and we are not sovereign. 750 will remove those barriers. I don't think that's really legal. And I know as sworn officers of the state and of our communities, I don't know how you can legally bind us to something that takes away our property rights. That's what you're sworn to uphold. I'd like you to think about that. Some of the other things I would like to discuss with you is how no one really knows about 750. We're trying to get the word out. But as our elected officials, at some point, the taxpayers and the voters of this county really should be made aware by a public announcement or something. Looking at 750, we have stakeholders. I think there are 200 plus stakeholders. From what I understand, a stakeholder has a stake in something. I really would like someone to explain what they're holding. What is the stake in our county? Who are the stakeholders that will hold a stake in our county? Maybe it would be a good idea that we could publish who the stakeholders are in St. Lucie County. What do they get at the end of the rainbow? There is something if you're a stakeholder, as I believe. You get some profit at the end of the game. What does that mean to the taxpaying citizens of St. Lucie County? Not only who are the stakeholders, but what are their financial reports? Maybe we should know this before we go in, since this is like a business deal. We're going to sign a contract with someone, so maybe we need to know about the people we're signing the contract with. Who are on their boards and what are their interests? This is something that we need to know, because when you sign the contract, you're agreeing for us. So maybe before we get into an agreement, we need to know who we're doing business with. So it might be a good idea if we could gather that information, and maybe I can stop by or email my commissioner, Commissioner Hutchinson, and I'll send you an email, and maybe we could get this information gathered and published on who the stakeholders will be in St. Lucie County. Who are we turning ourselves over to? It's something that's really important. Another thing is, I was thinking about this plan, and this plan is on America 2050, because this plan is almost a blueprint for all 11 mega regions in the United States of America. It's not a secret. It's not specific for our area. These plans are all over. Walkable communities. That's really great. We live in a subtropical climate. Tell me how good a walkable community is for all the seniors in South Florida. What are they going to do to get around? You think that they can walk around in 90-degree heat, humidity, and downpours like we've been having for the past week? Is that walkable? Is it livable? It won't be for a lot of your citizens. I mean, it's great if you're 18 and you can, jog about and you can get on your bicycle. But what does that do for, the older population? Who are these communities being built for, and what makes them sustainable? This is what we need to know. It's great to say something sustainable, but what does that mean? Who is this going to affect? Is your mother going to be able to jump on her bike and go to the store in July? I don't think so. I'm not. Think of your disabled community. Is it livable or walkable? These terms are really great, but they're not applicable. To me, it's just more redistribution of money. These aren't real things. They're great on paper to be sustainable, to be socially equitable, which we already live in a socially equitable society. We're all born equal, and what we make of our lives is up to us. And I'll leave you with that thought for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Evelyn Warfield. I live at 3462 Southwest Revere Street, Port St. Lucie. My first comment to you is that your comment period is too long. You need to shorten it to 2 to 3 minutes. My second comment is that 750 is a local initiative made possible by a federal grant, and it's entirely under local control. The plan has no enforcement mechanism other than simply providing good ideas for people to consider in the future as they plan their communities. At the end of the day, each county will decide whether or not to implement these ideas. If any county doesn't like something in the plan, they don't have to do it. It's that simple. Now, my understanding of this, and I've just recently started looking into it, is that this is a partisan issue. And This is a federal versus a local dispute. And I am perfectly comfortable with the Sierra Club and the Audubon Society representing me at the table. If I don't have a seat at the table, I am perfectly happy with them because I trust that they will do the right thing. So I would ask you, before you have a vote on this, to have a public hearing so that people can get a better understanding of what's in the plan, because clearly some people are very confused. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warfield. Just as a reminder again, folks, I know you all have different opinions, but we want everybody to be respectful of each other, and it's not appropriate to make snide remarks when a speaker is speaking. We want to be respectful for each other. Just as you're hoping your message is going to be heard, that is a comment. And I know we appreciate that, so thank you for helping us with that. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mark Gotts, 154 Northwest Magnolia Lakes Boulevard, Port St. Lucie. And I agree. Being respectful and finding out the information and doing the research is very important in anything, although this is a public forum, so anybody can come up here and speak about anything. Most of you know me on the commission, and you know that I work in education. I basically work in Dade County. And I'd like to piggyback on something that Bob Golding, one of the previous speakers, mentioned, which was public input. And as you read the information about the MOUs and the contracts that you have with the South Florida Regional Planning Council in this partnership, it speaks intensively about getting the public involved, getting the public input. Well, the reason why I'm standing here today and started 3 months ago, and we've been continuously coming back, is I do work in development down in Miami. And I use some of the probably most costly zoning attorneys that county has to offer. And after I found out about 750, I decided I would call these attorneys and ask them to kind of advise me on it. I mean, they should be up to speed with this. This is a regional plan. They're in planning and zoning. That's how they make a living. When I asked, the response was, and this is 2 months ago, I've never heard of it. Now, how can people who are involved in an industry where they make a living and are the best at their industry in Dade County, which is where the majority of this plan is the largest county we have in the 7 counties, have never heard about it? Is that not curious? So I decided, well, maybe they just were uninformed. So just recently, I called one of the largest attorneys who I know down there who handles HOAs, homeowners associations. Figured, this guy has to be up to speed with this. I mean, this is a plan that's been going for 3 years now, and they're supposed to identify and get community involvement. So I asked him, called him up, tell me what you think about the 750 plan. Not a clue. I would suggest that the original investment by the government, of which a strong proportion of that was to bring in the public sector to come in and discuss and see this plan and be stakeholders in this plan, has not been accomplished. And I think that they're in violation of their contract with you from that. But getting back to your contract, your Sustainable Communities Initiative Memorandum of Understanding states on page 3 the following: whereas each of the signatories to this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is committed to the following livability principles relating to the sustainable development and redevelopment of Southeast Florida. So basically, your MOU has already committed you. And I don't think you have a way out other than withdrawing. Because the discussion about approving this plan, you really do not have an approval basis. The consortium agreement, page 4, Regional Planning Council's project management team, in this section you will find the following language: if full consensus, and we know how difficult it is to get a consensus, cannot be reached, then the executive committee will be in a position to take a majority vote on a specific issue as well as a supermajority vote to approve the final regional vision and blueprint. There is no mention of partnership members having the final say as to what they will accept. And once the plan is approved, you have already said that you will implement it. I'm going to leave you with that because I just think that your legal department and the staff that you have needs to investigate this one more time, because I think you may already be to that cliff that the young lady in front of me already discussed. And I know all of you, and I know you're bright people, and I know you can see through this. I just don't know why we're still in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gott. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Joanne Carlton Humphreys. I live at 7449 Carlton Road in Fort Pierce. I've attended several of these meetings over the last few weeks and listened to folks speaking against 750. And it seems most of these dissenters are transplants here from somewhere else. I know 2 of our commissioners are here from somewhere else, Pittsburgh and Michigan. I would guess you chose our little area because of what it had to offer. Maybe a slower pace or a friendlier face, or maybe just because of the water and the wide open spaces. I can understand that. My family came here 4 generations ago for the same reasons. My ancestors came to Florida 6 generations back, before Florida was even a state. So I genetically understand and appreciate the uniqueness of St. Lucie County. And that is why I cannot understand how anyone who came here because he liked what he found would even consider voting for something that would destroy the very qualities he found so appealing. And way, way worse than that, I can't fathom why the rest of you, natives of Fort Pierce, or like Commissioner Lewis, an almost native, would ever be even a little bit open to the ugly, restrictive, confining plan that would completely derail any chance for your grandchildren to enjoy the wonderful county the way you were able to. How is such a thing even possible? 2 weeks ago, most of you said you wanted to wait until the plan was presented in October before you made up your mind. With the track record of the federal government, I personally will be very surprised if the plan is even ready on time. But that's irrelevant. What is of the most importance is that if you have not already taken it upon yourselves to study this plan and do your own research and have an understanding of the intrusive, controlling, socialistic overreach of the 750 plan, I personally think you are failing as commissioners. If you walk across a field and you see a rattlesnake, you don't need to be bitten to know that it's deadly. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good morning. Excuse me, so long and not talking.
No problem. Good morning.
My name is John Meikle. I'm from Vero Beach, 1612 Camino del Rio. And as I was sitting here waiting to speak, I was looking at all these screens around the room, and I want to tell you that they all look like freedom to me. And I don't think that's what we're speaking about here. But I have been in the audience for about 4 or 5 times, and I've never really been able to put together how these dire consequences will happen. It sounds like it's so ludicrous that it couldn't possibly come to being here in St. Lucie. However, I bought a publication from the Wall Street Journal for you. I'm going to leave it here, and it was from September 5th, and it explains how HUD gets hold of everything. And it's called the Washington Fair Housing Assault on Local Zoning. And in this article, which I will leave, it expresses that exclusionary zoning and equal diversity. Now, in an actual case going on now in Westchester, Westchester is the number 2 or 3 in the county in New York State. HUD challenged them. HUD lost. HUD then challenged them again. They lost. they are holding back $17 million of block grant for poor people, I might say. And then, without even giving any facts, HUD said in this particular Wall Street Journal article that they will withhold the $17 million unless Westchester County openly signs on and says, yes, they are in violation. And that's without presenting any facts. That is blackmail with our own money. And anyway, that's how it comes into being here. But the most amazing point they said here in this fair housing assault is that if they can find exclusionary practices or non-equitability of residents, they can dismantle, and that's the word they use, dismantle local zoning and planning councils. They will override is one word, but dismantle is the word that they used. And I'd like to go back to some more connections. They speak of sustainability, well, and then on the other breath they speak here in Port St. Lucie about PGA Village being one of the areas that they pointed out. Well, if you were to put heavy population into the PGA Village, I think it would do anything other than it would be unsustainable. It is a planned community at the present. It's planned to have its own transport. You know, most houses have 2 cars. There's no shops. There's no work. There's no infrastructure. There's no buses. There's nothing. And if you want to put a lot of people up in an area like that without work, I think is what you're going to have is unsustainability. I have seen in New York housing projects pulled down after 15 years because they just didn't work and they were ruined, and the whole reason they were put there is to house the masses, but without work, nothing works. So they were dismantled. So I wish someone would just take these plans that these people talk about and the words they use and disseminate the words, because they don't make sense at all. And if we were just talking about short strokes of this plan, we could say that this board, the governors, you commissioners, are sitting there actually deciding the price of your own real estate. If word got out that St. Lucie was at the forefront of the 750 program and what was to befall St. Lucie, I guarantee you your real estate prices would fall like a rock. And that's your own homes, everybody else's homes here. And that's all I have to say, and I just hope you'll give it your greatest thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meikle. Good morning.
My name is David Griffin. I'm here urging you to vote against 750, my second time. I've read Anthony Westbury's column, and I am still a naysayer, as he says. He said if any planners had that much influence, and stop right there, well, if this gets passed, there won't be any local planners with any influence. Regional appointees will dictate what's done. And where will they get their influence? From the federal guidelines, which will be following Agenda 21 policy. They say it's not Agenda 21. Well, it is very obvious that it is. By the way, here is Agenda 21, all 300 pages. No, I'm not going to try and read it. The document, they say, doesn't exist. I encourage you to read it. Inside the President's Council on Sustainable Communities parallels 750's development plan, song and verse. I understand your statement that you want to wait until it comes out to see what's in it, what's in 750. That sounds very good and wise. I commend you for that. What I'm afraid of is that they will make a way for it to sound good with nothing threatening or overpowering. Then after it's accepted, we will find out years from now about the real consequences. They need it to be a Trojan horse. They simply can't tell all. They're under pressure, and it's already been turned down in Indian River County. Later on, they'll say, well, we didn't want to build high-rises this tall, but we had to fit everyone in. Or they'll be saying, people wouldn't move out of their houses, so now we have to use measures to persuade them. Commissioners, I urge you to carefully read all of it, even if it's 1,000 pages. But I also urge you to go to the website ac4pr.org. That's AC, Roman numeral 4, pr.org. There are many videos there for you to see. They are labeled and in categories. Find out what happened in the Bay Area of San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. Westchester County has already been mentioned. Mary Alice Davis is a widow in Falmouth, Maine, who has a house on 180 acres. They won't let her do anything with her house or her land. They say the land she owns and pays taxes on should go to the people. Have you heard of ICLEI, the International Council on Environmental Initiatives? It's under the guise of going green. It's the video UN taking over city councils across America. West Palm Beach is on that list. Now, I haven't heard of anything big or threatening happening there, but that's the frog in the cooking pot effect. The people there probably haven't heard that their city has been taken over by the UN. Anthony Westbury simply has his head in the sand. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Melinda Meikle, 1612 West Camino del Rio in Vero Beach. And I've been working and speaking and listening in Indian River and now here the past year. And every citizen has stood up and warned about the outside control that these plans will bring to our counties and doing away with our individual freedom, property rights, and the Constitution. I'm very curious as to whether all the vast amount of information has been read and studied, and if not, I urge you to. We're lucky to have this representative form of government that we live under, where we choose our officials to protect our rights. And I believe that hardworking citizens have the right to fear the destruction of freedom and property rights under the massive truckloads of EPA, HUD, and DOT restrictions that are being dumped on us. To cite a similar example as many have of the 750, there's another case in Warren County, New Jersey, where the freeholders were under pressure to accept grant money from the newly formed NGO, Together New Jersey, as Together New Jersey is quickly moving to create a single region out of 13 northern New Jersey counties. The first step for Warren officials was to sign a memorandum of understanding, agreeing for the county to join together and share a $5 million grant. Local residents saw trouble as the consortium was to be run by non-elected officials to portion grant money to member communities. Since recipients are wholly bound by stipulations attached to that grant money, in effect, the freeholders would have lost their authority. To that fact, these sustainable regions would create a layer of government regulations over the local authority. Consequently, they voted it out for that reason. There are many similar plans across America with many different names, but they are all the exact same model of a sustainable community. A quick explanation of sustainable communities lies at sustainablefreedomlab.org. They explain the goal of sustainable development is to integrate economic, social, and environmental policies in order to achieve a reduced consumption, social equity, and the preservation and restoration of biodiversity, and that every societal decision be based on environmental impact, focusing on global land use, global education, and global population control and reduction. The bizarre irony of these many, many so-called sustainable communities, in fact, it's reached a craze, is the flip side. The Biodiversity Council of the United Nations have generated proclamations for what is unsustainable. They have an atrocious list of things that are unsustainable So while we're looking for sustainable communities, we're being told that many of these things at the same time are unsustainable. Grazing of livestock, cows and sheep, agriculture, modern farm production systems, building materials, paved and tarred roads, railroads, floor and wall tiles, technology improvements, farmlands, rangelands, pastures, harvesting of timber, fossil fuels, power line construction, inappropriate social structures, private property, population growth, sewers, drain system, pipelines, and golf courses, just to name a few. You can go look it up, and I'm leaving a copy to be able to review that. Sustainable or unsustainable? After these reductions to our lives, there won't be much left, let alone the American dream. Climatologist John Casey actually spoke at this commission before. He was a former White House National Space Policy Advisor with NASA, and he warned this commission of global cooling. He has written a book called Cold Sun. He warns that innocent people are being misled and will not be prepared for the up-and-coming cooling conditions. Further to this research supports his forecast as the Arctic ice cap has grown from 2012 to 2013 by 60%. And I've included pictures. You'll see. So this is massive cooling going on. There may be others that disagree, but it's certainly worth determining. Okay, I had a little bit more to say, but I want to thank you and urge you to withdraw from this plan. I'm sure that we could put similar wonderful plans together on our own without outside involvement. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners, staff. My name is Richard Silvestri. I live at 5708 Buchanan Drive, Fort Pierce. I know I'm going to run out of time. So first things first, I would urge you to pass the resolution, or whatever you want to call it, to go along with what Martin County passed last week and have the governor declare an emergency because of the situation with the river and the lagoon. The discharges from the lake and all the other problems we have, septic tanks, fertilizers, that type of thing. I'm sorry to have to take up more of your time because I know that hours and hours and hours have been taken up by the American Coalition for Property Rights, but I just cannot sit back and let them go unchallenged. The last time I was here, I quoted the University of Miami's magazine regarding global warming causing the loss of staghorn corals worldwide. Also, I quoted National Geographic magazine's article on rising seas due to global warming. I did that because the AC4PR group refutes the 750 plan, saying, among other numerous ridiculous allegations, it is based on global warming. One of their speakers even refuted me, stating that National Geographic magazine is not a credible source. He failed to comment regarding the scientists at the University of Miami who contributed to that Miami article about staghorn corals. So, given the fact that they're saying that the 750 plan is based on the false allegation that global warming is just a theory and a hoax and all of that baloney, I'm going to quote you some things that I have researched since that last meeting. The national and international science academies and scientific societies have assessed current scientific opinion on climate change. These assessments are generally consistent with the conclusions of the International Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. Now, I'll stop right there. IPCC is a group of the United Nations. And we've already heard that, this 21 plan, the United Nations, they want a, new world order. They're going to take over the world. Everyone forgets the fact that the United States was one of the founding nations of the United Nations, that we sit on the General Assembly and on the Security Council. We've had permanent seats on the Security Council. It's interesting because I have reasonable feelings that the AC4 PR, you need to follow the money, and the money goes back to the oil industry. You hear a lot of comments here against riding mass transportation, moving people in closer. It's not sustainable that South Florida lives the way it did in 1883 when my wife's great-grandparents came to the Miami area. I mean, it's just not the same back then. And people have been coming and coming and coming for over 100 years, and they're going to continue to come, so plans have to be made, about how are you going to house those people, and how is that going to fit into the environment, and how is it going to fit into the quality of life, and these other things. But you go back, so you follow the money, and you go back, and you find out that there was an organization called the John Birch Society, and it was formed by Mr. Robert Welch, and one of his founding assistants with that was a man named Fred Koch, who had set up refineries in Russia and had a falling out with Stalin, so he became an avowed hater of anything socialist. And so he has two sons, David, I can't think of the other son, but regardless, the Koch brothers, they're billionaires, multi-billionaires in the oil industry in the United States. And, the connection is just phenomenal, but they helped found and fund the Tea Party, which they promote as a grassroots movement, which is based on using the middle class to attack the lower class to help out the wealthy class. It's really funny. And then they have other organizations like the Cato Institute, Americans for Prosperity, which I heard one gentleman at the last meeting discuss that he had just come from Americans for Prosperity meeting. So anyway, you follow the money. Do it on your own. You'll find out that the money goes back to oil, and it makes a lot of sense because, if you take people out of cars, you're not going to sell as much oil. So I guess I ran out of time, so I'll have to continue this at next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Silvestri.
Someone left a pen.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is John Moeller. I live at 5217 Northwest Iredell Street in Port St. Lucie, and I guess you realize it now that I'm against 750. I mean, it's my 8th time here. First of all, I have just recently joined the American Coalition for Property Rights. It is a local organization funded by myself and a few others have donated money. There's no outside money in our organization whatsoever. I'd like to make that perfectly clear. What I would like to talk to you today about is you want to read the 750 plan, and I've been to 3 of their charrettes and I've been to West Palm Beach for the 3-day conference. There's one thing that constantly was being brought to my mind was a book I'd read about 1.5 years ago. It was titled, How Do You Kill 11 Million People? 6 million of them are of Jewish faith. The idea behind the book is that they first told the people, we need to round you up and put you in an inner city for your protection. Then they said, we need to build a fence around you for your protection to keep undesirables out. Then they made the fence into a wall, and then at the wall they put a concertina wire at the very top. Once they got everybody in their little ghettos, then they told them, outside of the cities in the country, we have built this utopia little communities for you. They're very sustainable. We're going to send you out there. Just get on the train and go out, and you'll have a little plot of land, a nice little house to live in. So they got on the train, and they ended up at the concentration camps. I'm not saying 750 is going to round us all up and exterminate us. But what they are going to exterminate is our freedom. They're going to start off in the plan when I was there, said they want 40% sustainability, bullseye cities. You know as well as I do, if they get anywhere near 40%, they're going to want 60. If they get anywhere near 60, it's going to go to 80. The ultimate goal here is they want 100% of all of us living in their utopia with their mass transit. Their mass transit will dictate the routes, when you can go and where you can go. You will not own property because the Stack and Pack of communities will be rentals. You will not have the say-so of who you can live with and where you can live. So just like the book of how you kill 11 million people, just keep in mind when you're reading this plan, they're not, I don't like to use the word liar, but what I'm saying is it's kind of like a magic show. They're going to present you with this wonderful utopia. They're going to expect you to wear your rose-colored glasses, look into it, and see this wonderful future. And I'm telling you that their idea is not the idea of the majority of the people that I talk to in this county. I know I've been here before. I started out where I said I only spoke to a few people, and then it went up to 100 people, 200 people. I'd say, like I said, I could just stand in line in Publix and ask people. I donated blood. I talked to the people there. Anywhere and everywhere I go, any organization I go to, there is no public input into this plan. No one's heard of it. And when you discuss it with them, they don't want to give up their property rights. And like the one lady said earlier, my wife and I are both in our late 60s. We're not going to walk, ride a bike, or take a skateboard to the supermarket. Nor, in the case of my wife, she has MS, has trouble walking. It's much more convenient to get in the car, go where we're going to go, come back, park in our garage, and get out. This plan, and when I was with the group down in West Palm Beach, a lot of the younger people really, really liked it. But when I brought up the problems of when you're going to get older, what it's going to be like, I don't think they thought that far ahead. So just remember, this plan is a utopia plan that I don't think we should be a part of, and I think we should withdraw from 750. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rick Modine. I live at 1550 Southwest Apache Avenue in Port St. Lucie. My family was one of the first 5 to come to this county. We came to Florida during the Seminole Wars. We brought cattle here. We brought the first school teacher here. We have a stake in this place. My son's in the audience. He's trying to learn how government works, where our protections are. I don't want to see somebody telling me or my son or my grandson or my future grandchildren that they can't keep on the heritage that we've been doing since we've come to America. Before that, it was in Georgia, in South Carolina. But for somebody to come and tell us we can't raise cattle and have property or own it or regulate it, we're better stewards of our property in this county than anybody else around here, because we live here. We're going to stay here. We're not going anywhere else. And all these other people that have come here because of those pictures on the back of these walls, which is our land here, and you are supposed to protect and take care of us. And I'd like to ask that gentleman that was here that was worried about the river and everything, about doing something and having to follow through with Martin County. Well, you know, that river's protected by the government. What a good job they've done. You know, I mean, if they can do such a good job with the river, what are they going to do to our backyard here too? We're polluting this place from the river and the ocean all the way back to the lake again. And that's what this is going to do. It's going to take away things and freedoms and rights and responsibilities that we have. You know, it's up to us to take care of it. It's up to you to make sure that we have the constitutional rights to be able to do it and to follow through with it. And I want my son and all the other people in here, yes, we have a right to say what we want. And I know that lady probably thinks it ought to be shortened up, because a lot of us don't want to hear what's going on, or we don't want to hear it if it's not our side. You know, we don't want to listen to it. And I don't want to use any numbers or statistics or anything, because that can all be manipulated. We all know that. You know, you work it to whatever your advantage is. But I'll tell you what, I would like to see this county be a lot stronger and a lot more profitable and a better place for my grandchildren to grow up and live. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is William McNeely, 2705 Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Pierce. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the water, just for a few moments. the emergency state of the river and all of our waters, which has actually been happening for a long time. I was one of the first scuba divers in this area. I used to scuba dive before we even had a scuba shop, a dive shop here. And so I've been in the ocean and studying it for a long time. I'm retired from St. Lucie County. I used to work with the first artificial reef programs. I monitored the programs and supervised the installation with the contractors. At that time, we were really into the environment of the ocean, and I know it's still very important to all the people. Also, I remember when I used to live close by to a canal, and in elementary school, that canal was actually clean. The river, the water was green and blue and full of fish. It was beautiful. I just went out to C-24 Canal by the city limits last Saturday, and the water was just filthy black. I've been watching the water from the lagoon for decades moving into the ocean, and it always moves to the east. And the reefs that I used to dive on, it always used to move to the south, off the South Beach. And those reefs that I used to dive on are all gone. They've all collapsed. Martin County just recently noticed that one of their reef systems is covered with the black water, and it's starting to collapse. But this has been happening for a long time. As the lagoon, as the tide goes out through our harbor, that water has been moving for decades out there and been very destructive. And so the ocean is steadily, the health of our ocean right here has been declining. I've been studying, I've been a teacher at Indian River State College since the 70s and retired from there just a few years ago in the Arts and Sciences department. So I've had quite an objective point of view as I've observed it. But it seems to me like your job is to protect our environment, and it should be our top priority. And anything that would endanger or risk the lagoon would be something that we would not want to consider. It is an emergency. Things can be done. We've been real silent here in St. Lucie County. We're the last to even consider a fertilizer ordinance. And, you know, we've let them have free reign over the state and destroy the lake. Okeechobee is totally destroyed. No one said anything about that as a fertilizer runoff continued to go into the lake. And you know what's interesting is when you protect the environment, everything improves. Organic foods, what's wrong with organic foods? What's wrong with stopping the use of fertilizers because they've had their chance? And it's almost gone now. Jacques Cousteau wisely said one time that we study the destruction of the ocean in decades. And I've watched it in decades and watched, once again, the reefs just disappear. The ocean's dying too, not just the lagoon. And the lagoon's dead to the north and the south, and we can't pretend that it's anything can really survive health and be healthy in this lagoon. And the dolphins are so beautiful. They're intelligent and they're suffering. You know, 3 years ago, Harbor Branch announced that 50% of our dolphins were so sick, if they were people, they'd be checked into the hospital. And we've lost 52 in just the last 6 months. We have a population of less than 800. That, you know, just do the math. We've got about 400 weeks, and the dolphins are gone completely. It seems like, you know, you people deal with a lot of important issues. It almost is overwhelming. But it seems like this would be the number one priority, is to protect our water, because already drinking water it's more expensive than gasoline. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I would just like to comment, because it's been said a number of times, St. Lucie County does have a fertilizer ordinance. It's been in place for 2 years. We're talking about looking at it to see if it can be improved or strengthened or what might ever need to be done to it. But I'm really getting kind of bothered by there seems to be a concept out there that we didn't pass one. We did indeed. We took over a year to work on it and do it. So there has been one in place for some time.
Good morning. I'm Rosemarie Wilson. I live at 1490 Fifth Avenue. I happen to be a member of the American Coalition for Property Rights. That's a good thing. You'll never know the Koch brothers' major contributions to the poor and the needy. It's overwhelming what they have given. I supported Audubon and the Sierra Club many years ago when I was young, but I have become older and wiser. There's more to benefit society than iggly worms, birds and bees, and field mice. How about freedom and liberty? My last comment is that I've been attending commission meetings in many different places for many, many years, but I have never encountered a county commissioner sitting behind the dais, behind his monitor, ignoring the people that speak at these commission meetings, and that's Chris Kofsky. And I resent it because respect goes both ways, Mr. Mowry. It's got to come from the commissioners as well as from the audience. And when people speak to you, Mr. Zakowski, you need to sit there and pay attention, or you shouldn't be on the county commission. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to respond to that, I will share with you the results of my listening to the audience. Sustainable communities, 38 times mentioned. Unelected, 22 times mentioned. HUD, DOT, EPA, 22 times mentioned. Local control, 11 times mentioned. Federal government, 15 times mentioned. Westchester County, 15 times mentioned. Redistribution of wealth, 16 times mentioned. Socialism, 21 times mentioned. PGA Village, twice. Global cooling, twice. Transportation issues, 8 times. Contracts, 5 times. Socialistic plan, 7 times. Agenda 21, 3 times. Stack and pack, twice. And if you'd like, I go back to the former meeting with the same statistics. So I do listen. I write down every word that I feel is important to understand, to listen, to go back and do the research. So don't tell me I'm not paying attention.
Get the message.
Okay, again, we ask you provide your comments. You can do that obviously as much as you want. And I do have to say, Commissioner Zadowski probably more so than any of us probably takes more notes. We kid him at times about the amount of notes that he does take in a meeting. So I would say if you're hoping your message is getting heard, I would assume that he is obviously writing copious notes. I don't see him scribble. I see him take notes constantly about it. So he's getting it in terms of hearing what you're saying, but obviously each of the commissioners will be able to work through that process as we move forward. Great. This time, we're going to close public comment, and we're going to return to our agenda. Just 1 minute. All right. Trying to get my computer to wake up from sleepy land. It keeps going to sleep on me here. Trying to do this paperless.
Good luck.
It's good and bad at times. Okay, with that, we're going to turn to our consent agenda. Are there any items that any commissioner wishes to pull for a separate vote or a separate discussion?
Mr. Chair, I need to pull warrants list 48 and M2 for separate votes, which I'll abstain from both.
Okay, we have 48 as well as M2, warrants list 48. Is there a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
I have a motion for
Second.
warrants list and second. Any discussion on that warrants list? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried unanimously. With that, we'll turn to M2.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Consent agenda item M2. There's been motion and second. Any discussion on that item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Any other item that any commissioner wishes to pull for a separate vote or separate discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will begin with our public hearings. This is item 8. We're under the County Attorney's Office. This is Resolution 2013-178. This is the abandonment of a portion of a utility easement in Palm Grove subdivision. By the way, just for the record here, we do have items pulled prior to the meeting. We had item 7B7, which was pulled by the county attorney. That was legal fee reimbursement from Celebration Point. And then there was one item added prior to the meeting, which was item 9-C under the county attorney, and that was the state of emergency. With that, we will turn to the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, as you indicated...
We need to check. I think your mic still isn't working, Dan. I'm sorry.
Sure how to do that.
There it goes.
There, it sounds like...
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you've indicated, this is a public hearing. The subject is to abandon a portion of a utility easement in the Palm Grove subdivision. The plat of that subdivision shows a 10-foot utility easement in front of the properties on the plat. That utility easement was dedicated for the use of all utilities. The property owner of Lot 2 and Block E built a house in 2001. Unfortunately, a small portion of that house was built over the utility easement. That property owner now wants to sell their house and give clear title, but because of the encroachment on the easement, they're unable to do that. County staff and the board has attempted to expedite this petition. We had a notice of intent that was advertised on August 14th and August 21st. We mailed letters to all property owners on August 23rd, lying within 300 feet of the proposed abandonment. No objections have been filed to this date from any property owners. We also notified all relevant utilities, and no objections have been filed. County staff members have reviewed the petition and have no objection to the abandonment. Staff recommends that the board approve Resolution 2013-178, instruct staff to publish the final notice of abandonment, record the resolution, the proof of publication, and the notice of hearing.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we will close the public hearing and return to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Been seconded. Any discussion on the item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we'll turn to Planning and Development Services. This is the development agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and Lucie BOCC, LLC. This is the second public hearing. Good morning, Ms. Waite.
Good morning, Chairman Mowry, Commission members. For the record, Diana Waite, Senior Planner, presenting staff comments. And as the Chairman mentioned, this is the second public hearing. This is for a proposed development agreement between Lucie BOCC, LLC and the Board of County Commissioners for a project known as the St. Lucie Commerce Center. Since the board's first public hearing on this item, the only change made to the agreement is the updating of maps for consistency with the approved St. Lucie Commerce Center major site plan that the board approved on September 3rd. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing, and the required public notice was provided. We have had one contact from a property owner in the Timberlake Estates who has expressed concern regarding future industrial development. The development agreement provides and guides the future development of the 94-acre site, which is located approximately half a mile north of Orange Avenue and at the northern end of Rock Road. It's on the north side of St. Lucie Correctional Facility and extends to 95 to the northeast and Layback Way, an unapproved road to the west. The subject lands are zoned industrial light and industrial heavy. The surrounding zoning districts are mixed with non-residential zoning districts to the south, east, and on the north side of the FDOT access road. Residential zoning is also located to the west and north across I-95.
The development agreement incorporates the St. Lucie Commerce Center major site plan and sets forth the rights and obligation related to the future development of the proposed industrial subdivision. The agreement allows for a 10-year site plan expiration date rather than a 2-year typically provided for major site plans. Other provisions provide for the dedications of the public roadways, paving of the road, extensions of public water and sewer facilities. In conclusion, staff has reviewed the proposed development agreement before the Board of County Commissioners and Lucy Rock LLC for the St. Lucie Commerce Centers and recommend the board approve the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. This time we'll turn to the general public, which appears to be Mr. Lee Dobbins coming forward. Good morning, Mr. Dobbins.
Good morning. We have our team here again this morning if you guys had any questions. Also, my client, Barry Goldmeyer, again, couldn't make it this morning and wanted me to extend his apologies. His mother-in-law is very sick and in the hospital, so he's with his wife there with her right now. But if you have any questions from the team, we're all here and ready to answer your questions. I would ask that if you have any engineering questions, put those up front because Mr. Mathis has to leave almost immediately due to the 7:50 filibuster keeping us all waiting here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbins. This is a public hearing. Anyone else wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so. Seeing no one else, any questions from the commission? We're going to close the public hearing, by the way. Turn to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. That concludes our public hearings this morning. We'll turn to item 9, our regular agenda. We're starting off with the administration. Ms. Outlaw, this is Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item is for the board to fill or to select 9 applicants to send up to the governor for consideration to fill 3 seats on the Children's Services Council. 2 of those seats have already expired, although the applicants are still serving, and 1 will expire in November. 3 applicants has to be sent up for each of the seats. Mr. Chairman, I would ask that the board fill out your tally sheet, and while we are compiling it, that you consider going on to the other 2 items because it will take some time to gather all of that. So with that, the board needs to make its selection.
Thank you, Ms. Outlaw. Any questions at this time, though, before we do that vote of any commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, these are just names that we send up to the governor who ultimately makes the decision. They're not, I mean, this is just input that we've reviewed over the applicants and so forth.
This is input, which we did that last year,
Right.
and none of the names were acted upon by the governor at that time.
That is
We're
correct.
coming around again.
And that's kind of where I'm headed with this one. I noticed in staff's recommendation that not only do they ask to pick the 9, but even to consider all of the names that are presented. And I think there's like maybe 12 names. I think I covered 11.
13.
11, 12, 13. Thank you. I mean, as odd as it may sound, and this is like, I don't know how many times these names have come back for us to reconsider names again. I'm almost to the point that just send all the names up there. So I didn't know what the board felt like.
Well, if we send all the names, that to me will probably set a precedence for now on that you can have a large list of people put their name in for one of the seats, and it could be 24, 25 people. And you send everybody name up. Or if you don't send everybody name up, well, you send everybody name up the last time. So I think it's almost would kind of be a catch-22 on a situation like that. I think if we stick to the number 9 or the significant number that we're pulling for and pulling from, I think it will be better served for the future. in future situations that we'll probably end up dealing with.
It's my understanding there are 3 seats that are open.
Mm-hmm.
And so of those 3 seats, they're looking for 3 recommendations.
Per seat.
For each.
Yes,
For each.
3 each per seat.
That is
And-
correct.
And at this point, we do have 13 names of applicants that have applied for that, which I know every year we've asked for new applicants to come forward on that. Applicants fill out an application, they fill out information about themselves, and then I know certain individuals have called me, and maybe they've called other commissioners to sort of announce that they would like to be selected for that. But I think, Commissioner, your comment is, it's interesting, because I think at this point, clearly I think the governor has his mindset on certain types of applicants for that. He didn't care for the list that was sent up last time, and so depending upon how this is, although there are new names I see that are on this list compared to that last list. But
So
again,
you're thinking based upon him not moving on the names last time, it really doesn't matter what number we send up there? Or is it the quality of the applicants? And if he's questioning the quality of the applicants, then I'm saying, you know, does he value the people who are applying and want to serve in St. Lucie County?
I don't know if it's the quality in that sense as much as it is, you know, maybe his personal preferences for the type of applicant. So at this point, I think you're seeing a list of several names of I think 3 people that are looking to be reappointed, and then all the other 10 names are names, some of which were on the list from last year.
Well, I'm not trying to be funny when I make this statement, but if he wants personal preferences, then he needs to probably send us some information to let us know that, because we don't decide who apply. That's just my personal opinion on that. But you know, in the end result, we as a board, we have to make that decision.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Johnson. There are the 3 folks who are sitting, one of whom has remained in place for 3 years while we waited for the governor to decide. I really think we do need to choose. I would prefer that we choose 3 for each seat. As Commissioner Johnson indicated, the list has been quite long. As Commissioner Hutchinson mentioned, there are some new names on here that I have not seen apply before. I would just, you know, we've been given the option to exercise some control, local control. I'm all about home rule. We've been given the option to exercise some choice in this matter, and I would like to continue to do that. I do feel it would set a precedent for the future if we were to just send the whole list, as well as kind of abdicating any authority or responsibility we've been given in this matter. So I would suggest we choose the 9 names as we've done before. It's unfortunate that it seems to have run up against a roadblock. Once again, I'm not sure what the governor's preferences are, and quite honestly, I don't think it would be probably appropriate if he were to tell us. I don't think it would make that much difference in my decisions, because I would like to choose those folks that I think would serve us best. But once again, my preference is that we choose 9 names at this point in time and try again.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Johnson and Lewis that we do send 9 names. And first, I want to also say we are very fortunate to have some incredibly qualified people that have applied. So first and foremost, thank you for everyone who's applied. The decisions that we make are not made because of one thing or another. It's simply that you know, we've looked at all the information available, and for me, diversity of the process, understanding every segment of society, that which we will be approving for children's sake. Ultimately, it's about the children. The Children's Services Council has been an incredibly important tool in our community, working with and for children and the betterment thereof. I think it's important that we have the local flavor, that we suggest to the governor that these are the people that represent the people that we serve. And I think that that's why I believe, number one, that we send a firm list of 9, but also it should be acted upon in short order.
Okay, I hear consensus to move forward with the voting of the 9 names. If you wouldn't mind, mark your selections on the ballot that's been provided, and I believe Missy will be by to collect those. Missy.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, if we can deviate briefly, I would like the board approval to my appointee to the Housing Finance Authority, that being Patricia Tobin. If I could get approval of that, I'd appreciate it.
I'm sorry, what was that name again?
Patricia Tobin.
Oh, Patty Tobin. Oh.
For the Housing Finance Authority.
The way you said it, I didn't...
Everybody knows her as Patty, but
yeah.
Just being more formal.
Okay. We have a recommendation. Is there
Approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
A motion seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. Patty,
Thank you.
That'll be good. Okay. With that, we're going to move on to item B, Planning and Development Services. This is the Road Impact Fee Credit Agreement for the Coulter Group. I was going to say, Mike's sitting at the microphone. No, he's not the staff we're turning to for this. He's helping staff pull things up on that item. Good morning, Ms. Waite.
Yes, Chairman Mallory, Commission members, Diana Waite, Senior Planner, presenting staff comments for the request of the Coulter Group LLC for approval of Road Impact Fee Credit Agreement to provide road impact fee credits for development within the Reserve DRI and the Verano DRI. This item is not a public hearing. However, staff did notify several people within the reserve who asked for public record requests for future petitions. I only received one call and there was no objection. The map on your screen will show the 2 developments. One is the reserve. It's a 2,690-acre DRI that was first approved in the late 80s. The other is the Verano DRI, a 3,000-acre project that's entirely within the city of Port St. Lucie that was originally approved in 2003. The Coulter Group is the developer of both projects. As part of an amendment to both DRIs in 2012, there was a revised transportation report and changes to the transportation conditions. One of it which anticipated a revision of a road impact fee agreement that was put in place in 2004. And this proposed agreement will address that provision in the development order. The roadways for which credit is being granted is for improvements to Commerce Center Drive and St. Lucie West Boulevard. And this is a picture of the long-range transportation plan, which those roads are on those plans as well as in our comprehensive plan. The project has been reviewed for eligibility pursuant to St. Lucie County ordinance. Some of the criteria is that no credit is given for site-related transportation improvements. The credit had to be determined to be capacity enhancements that were in excess of the project's impacts. In conclusion, staff has reviewed and determined that it does meet the criteria and recommend approval of the development agreement. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Waite. Any questions for the staff? The applicant like to say anything this time? Okay. As a matter of record, I will need to abstain from the vote as I've represented Coulter in the past for Verano. So I need to make that disclosure.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And motion is seconded. Any discussion on the item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, staff. that, we will turn back to our county administrator, who's feverishly working with her pen still.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you can go on to the next item, please.
That's mosquito control.
We will turn to Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr.
And we will go to item 9C. This is the resolution requesting the governor of Florida to issue the state of emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, this is item 9C. There's a resolution, if adopted, would request the governor to issue a state of emergency. Just in a way of background quickly, the Indian River Lagoon is an important commercial and recreational fishery and economic resource to our state and our region and our county. Extensive historical modifications to the river and its watershed have altered the hydrology of the region, and as a result, heavy rainfall can bring large influxes of fresh water into the estuary from stormwater runoff within the basin, Lake Okeechobee releases, or both. This increased fresh water flows affects salinity levels, water quality, and potentially cause environmental harm. This runoff is causing a public health threat as different types of organisms have proliferated in the lagoon to form dense blooms, which produce multiple toxins as well as neurotoxins. The coming months could herald a slow recovery of this unique ecosystem or an imminent collapse of the remaining portion of the estuary that has been sustainable up to this point. The resolution attached to the memorandum requests the governor consider issuing an executive order declaring a state of emergency to protect the Indian River Lagoon and the St. Lucie estuary. Under state law, the governor has broad powers dealing with state permitting and cost recovery issues that are not available to local governments such as St. Lucie County. Because of the limited emergency powers available to local governments, a declaration of a local state of emergency would not, in my opinion, be sufficient to respond to the issues. Staff recommends that the board adopt the resolution requesting the governor declare a state of emergency and authorize the chairman to sign the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for staff? Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
I have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement. First of all, I want to say I'm proud of us making an effort to do this as well as Martin County. And I also want to thank Commissioner Zadowski and all of those who were a part of the, was it a forum that per se that we had?
Our six-county summit?
Six-county summit. And it was very informational. The presenters were great, and we got the gist of our 6 counties working together, and it's going to be a continuous faction moving forward. So I just want to thank all the counties that participated: Volusia, Martin, Palm Beach, Brevard, Indian River, and ourselves as well. Martin. So it's a collective effort, and we're going to do what's in the best interest of the lagoon and the people in the counties surrounding.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. By the way, I know Mr. McIntyre as well did send a copy of the resolution to the surrounding counties. I've had discussions, and I know some of the commissioners have as well, with some of the counties to see about having them follow suit and to move in likewise. With that, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Brings us to the end of our agenda. We'll return to our county administrator.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to go back to the item on Children's Services Council.
Yes, that's why I'm coming back to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have to read the commissioners' vote, so bear with me here in that we have a list. Commissioner Zadowski, Patricia Alley, Chris Harris, Drew Kell, Michael Lannon, Herbert Melvin, Gazafar Saeed, Quinn Townsend, Melanie Trewin, Gary Wilson. Chairman Mowry, Patricia Alley, Kimberly Clarizio, Robert Lowe, Jason Matson, Al Rivet, Gazafar Saeed, Queen Townsend, and Gary Wilson. Commissioner Lewis, Patricia Alley, Kimberly Clarizio, Chris Harris, Michael Lannon, Jason Matson, Herbert Melvin, Queen Townsend, Melanie Trewin, Gary Wilson. Commissioner Hutchison, Patricia Alley, Kimberly Clarizio, Chris Harris, Robert Lowe, Jason Matson, Herbert Melvin, Al Rivet, Queen Townsend, Gary Wilson. Commissioner Johnson, Patricia Alley, Kimberly Clarizio, Chris Harris, Michael Lannon, Jason Matson, Herbert Melvin, Gazafar Saeed, Queen Townsend, and Gary Wilson. The top 9 vote getters, the names that will be sent up to the governor include Patricia Alley with 5 votes, Kimberly Clarizio with 4, Chris Harris with 4.
Ms. Allo, could you slow down just a moment so I'm taking the notes on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You want me to start with the
third
total?
one, if you would.
I'm going to start from the top. Patricia Alley with 5, Kimberly Clarizio with 4, Chris Harris with 4, Michael Lannon with 3, Jason Matson with 4, Herbert Melvin with 4, Gazafar Saeed with 3, Queen Townsend with 5, Gary Wilson with 0. Oh, that's an error, 5. That concludes the vote, Mr. Chairman. He is paying attention.
He wasn't asleep.
Wow. That was, Mr. Wilson, I'm sure she did not mean that. That was just an oversight. You know how good her math is.
That was truly a Freudian slip.
And I see there are several candidates as well that are in the audience, so thank you as well for attending this morning, for those of you that attended. We have those 9 names. The ballot has been determined, so there's no motion that's needed to be taken beyond that point. Okay. Are there any other items that were needed to be added before we go to our announcements? Seeing none. Ms. Outlaw, would you bring us home?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. On September 19th, this Thursday, geez, we're already into the week, you have your joint meeting with the Treasure Coast Research Development Authority, and that starts at 9, which will kick off with the dedication of Phase 1 of the infrastructure, and then at 6 o'clock, the board has its final budget hearing here in your commission chambers, and on October 1st, the budget workshop that was going to be held September 24th has now been rescheduled to October 1st at 9 o'clock a.m. in Conference Room 3. Those are your announcements.
Thank you, Ms. Outlaw. Any other additions to the announcements?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to let the board be aware that I spent yesterday with some of the staff down in Fort Lauderdale with the FDOT, and I am happy to announce that they had looked very favorable on a lot of our projects and roadways that we talked about during strategic. So you will be seeing some resolutions that staff is putting together that pertain to those that we need to take official action on in the future in order to get those jump started. So it was a very good, very productive meeting.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll have more to be able to share in the very near future. So thank you. Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, and to this board, and to those in the audience and those who have spoken, I take this job very serious. I do my research. I listen to every single person that comes up here. When someone confronts me and tells me that I have not paid attention, I will not sit silent. I take all the information from our staff, from outside sources, and from public comment. I am doing my research on this item, but I will not stand and listen to somebody say that I am not doing my due diligence, that I'm not listening to the public, because I do. My notes are all public information. I have at least 10 sheets of paper of notes of every person who spoke, the comments about which they spoke, and the research that they point me to. I take this job very seriously. And I will begin to speak up as opposed to just taking information in. Because what I'm hearing often is a kernel of fact with a lot of rhetoric. I have deep concern on the issue of 750 that not one minority, not one person who is poor has come in front of this organization to reflect their comments against 750. There's a bigger picture here. But I will not remain silent from this day forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? That is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Second.
We'll come to order St. Lucie County Erosion District. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from August 20th and September 3rd. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to general public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move to today's consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval? It's
Motion
simply
to
warrants
approve.
list.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I can't pull this up. For whatever reason, I cannot pull up these minutes for them.
There you go.
This time we'll open up our Mosquito Control District meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the August 20th,
Move approval.
2013?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. With that, we'll turn to the consent agenda. Actually, general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the district this time, please feel free to do so. Seeing the movement, we'll close the general public comment, turn to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the warrants list?
Move approval.
We have a
Second.
motion to approve the warrants list 46, 47, 48, and 49. It's been motioned second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.